Hey everybody, it's Mariana with 3 Peaks Classroom. I am a grade 3 and grade 4 teacher here in Alberta, Canada, and I love to make helpful YouTube videos for other educators just like you. I am so excited to kick off my guided writing series because I think there's a real need for students to practice and focus on good writing habits. From my own personal experience, I know that I don't focus on guided writing as much as I should. I know I do guided reading quite often, like every week I do some sort of a guided reading group, and some years I can even manage to do guided reading groups like every day. But guided writing, I'm not gonna lie, it's been a while. So I'm here to change that. I want to empower you with the right tools so that you can feel confident meeting with your students in a guided writing session in order to enhance their writing. So in today's episode, I want to share with you some common writing struggles that I see in the classrooms that kids are facing. And I want to give you some strategies or suggestions and tips on how you can combat those struggles. And I'm also going to share with you in the next episode what a typical guided writing session looks like in my classroom. I'm going to share with you some materials that I use, some things that you might want to have on hand as well, and some resources that have helped me tackle some of those guided writing sessions. And just before I dive right in, I want to share with you this free download that you can get in your classroom. It's a 2-page document, and it talks about some common writing struggles that students might have in the classroom, and a strategy that I suggest that you could use to help correct it, and some prompts that you can use as well. You can find this free download from my website if you go to www.3peaksclassroom.com/guided writing, and there you will find the free download where you enter your email and then it'll go straight to your inbox. Okay, let's dive right in. If you are noticing that you have a lot of students in your class that are struggling with writing and like writing concepts, you are not alone. A recent study in America found that 2/3 of all K-12 students are not at grade level in terms of writing. 2/3. Now, I know this is an American study and this is a Canadian channel, but I can't imagine Canada being that far off. Why does that statistic matter? Poor writers become poor communicators, and poor communicators just don't succeed very well or very quickly compared to the rest in the workforce. That's why it matters. So according to eSchoolNews.com, Dr. Dave Eddyburn has listed 3 tactics that teachers can use in the classroom to kind of combat these writing struggles that we're seeing. First, he mentions that students really benefit from targeted and timely feedback on their writing in order to improve it. The second tactic that he mentions is that students should be writing often and consistently. And then the third tactic that he mentions is kind of not really a tactic, an effective tactic. He just kind of mentions that our teacher plates are getting so overburdened that it's no wonder that we're not able to provide, timely, constructive feedback on our students' writing. Yeah, I would agree with that. With class sizes spiking and student behavior kind of out of control and all these extra additional things put onto our teachers' plates, it's no wonder that we are having a really hard time giving that constructive, timely feedback when our students are writing. Okay, now we obviously can't fix all those struggles, so let's stay positive and we're going to talk about the things that we can work on. So in my 12 years of teaching, I have seen the gamut of writing struggles, from the most basic to like poor printing or like not using punctuation to a bit more, complex struggles like how do you make a paragraph sound a lot more cohesive, or how do you make your fictional narrative not have all of these ideas jump over the place. So like I mentioned in today's episode, I want to share with you kind of 4 common struggles that I'm seeing in the classroom and ways that we can fix it. So a big struggle that I notice my students have, especially at the beginning of the year when they're kind of getting in the process of writing, is they have a really hard time thinking of a new idea. And I know I'm not alone when I mention that. So one strategy that I have is using our language arts notebooks. And if you flip to our writer's notebook section, the very first lesson that we have is where do writers get their ideas? And so we have a whole lesson on, where can a writer think of an idea? But a follow-up to this activity is we make a heart map. Together, we draw a heart and we break it up into various sections. And inside the heart, we write down things that we love to do, or things that we know a lot about. For me, my heart map would be something like camping, watching movies, gardening, playing sports, things like that. Once their heart map is complete, then your students now have a predetermined list of things that they could write about, things they love, so they'd be passionate to write about it, again, things that they love to do, but things also that they know a lot about. In my lesson, when I talk about the heart map, I tell my students, I don't know a lot about cars. So although I like a nice looking car, I don't know enough about it to write a really exciting story or to write a journal reply about cars. So I'm not going to include that in my heart map, but I do know a lot about gardening and I do know a lot about camping. So I'm going to be including that in my heart map. And then I'm really excited to write about that when it comes time to write a poem or whatever. Okay, another common struggle that my students have in the classroom is not editing their work. Oh my gosh. This is something that drives me nuts when students hand in a piece of work and I can tell they didn't check for capitals, they didn't check for punctuation or any of that. It is so annoying. So together as a class, we come up with a mini poster that's called COPS. Now, this is included in my writer's notebook. If you are interested in my writer's notebook resource, I will include the link down below in the description. But together we make a mini poster and we talk about COPS when you are editing. So COPS stands for capitalization, overall look of your writing, punctuation, and spelling. And I tell them before they hand anything in, did they check for COPS? And let me tell you, as soon as we do this anchor chart, it stays up in my classroom all year long, and they are not allowed to hand something in, if it's a good final copy, unless they've done COPS. Moving on to a bit more kind of like advanced writing struggles in my classroom, when I start teaching about my fictional narrative unit, like when students have to come up with their own creative story, I find that they often struggle with the different kinds of sentences that they include in their writing. It's almost always all dialogue. They'll say, hey, Kelly, watch out for that rock. Thanks, John. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then don't forget to come to my house after you're done your hike. Yeah, sounds great. I'll be right there. It's always talking dialogue back and forth. And that is a common struggle that I see across the board with my students. This skill, though, once you teach it, is actually quite easy to reinforce. So if you notice that your kids are always writing the same kinds of sentences in their writing, I want you to teach them and I want you to review the 4 different kinds of sentences that you can write. So in my writer's notebook, again, I have 4 different kinds of sentences. You have a declarative, interrogative, exclamatory, and imperative sentence. And I ask them to mix those sentences in with some sort of dialogue and action. And if your students can pick from these sentences, I'm telling you their work is going to be so much more exciting to read. And the last common struggle that I see my students in the class have all the time is writing boring sentences. I hate saying it, it sounds really cringy, but you know what I mean. When a student just writes really quick, simple sentences, there's nothing to them. And so a strategy that I mention in my writing strategies list to curb those boring sentences is to help them expand their sentences. Now, again, this is in my writer's notebook resource, but together as a class, we help to stretch a sentence. So the very first sentence that we have is the little boy. Okay, but that's actually not even a complete sentence. So then you go through all of the different questions and you expand the sentence. The little boy plays. The little boy plays every morning. The little boy plays every morning at the park. The little boy plays every morning at the park with his mother. The little boy plays excitedly every morning at the park with his mother. That is a fantastic, juicy sentence. Now, not all sentences have to be this detailed and this juicy, but I do recommend and I do encourage my students to go back and edit their sentences so that they do include adverbs and adjectives. So in a nutshell, those are kind of like the 4 most common errors that I see in my classroom all the time, and just a quick little strategy on how to curb those in case you are noticing those errors in your classroom as well. Now, you'll notice I didn't touch on phonics related errors. I actually spend 30 minutes every Monday, Wednesday, Friday in my classroom. First thing in the morning, we do an explicit phonics lesson, and I find that is separate than teaching about these writing strategies. So in my class, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, phonics lesson, Tuesday, Thursdays, grammar lesson, and then after that, we focus on either a writing strategy or a reading strategy. If you're interested in learning about my ELA timetable, you can also download that for free on my website, 3peaksclassroom.com/ELA schedule. Lots of freebies there you can download. All right, so next week I'm going to be sharing with you what a typical guided writing session looks like. I'll show you kind of how I set it up, the structure, some materials that I use, and some resources that have helped me as well. If you found this video helpful, I would love to hear from you. If you want to leave a comment down below, What are some common struggles that you're noticing in your classroom? That would be great. If you found it helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and you may even consider subscribing. YouTube loves seeing engagement on videos, and then YouTube will send those videos out to other educators as well. So, you could be helping another educator find my video and help them in the classroom as well. So thank you so much, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. I will see you next week when I talk about a typical guided writing session.